All right. Good evening and good night, and welcome to the It's Your Perspective Talk Show. It is Tuesday, July 14th. My name is David, aka Kimba, aka Christian, no special co-host in the studio tonight, holding on the fort here. This is the It's Your Perspective Talk Show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, weekly, 8 p.m. until. We do have a telephone number tonight, 340-201-9005. You can also text us on that number as well. But most importantly, you have to go to our website, streaming live from the VI at Yahoo. Streaming live from the VI.com. That is our website. We also have email as well, streaming live from the VI at yahoo.com. We do have a special guest in the studio tonight, Brad Nugent. He will be calling in here just in a few minutes. And just to talk about, just get his perspective on local issues. He says that he does keep in close contact about what's happening here, but he's away, and I guess he has a touch on the local and the national level as well. So he's our guest tonight, but we are in a high-tech, low-tech studio, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in St. Croix, Virgin Islands. No radio, no TV. Get your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, your Windows, your Mac PC. Just open up your browser, Internet Explorer, Safari, Chrome, whatever you use, and just go to streaming live from the VI.com. Click on Watch Us Live, and you'll be able to see this show live tonight. What else we got? We have two Facebook pages. Definitely want to give a shout out to CHS Class of 1982. Big ups to that whole crew. We have the Class of the 80s, I believe it is, function coming up Labor Day weekend here in St. Croix. It's always big fun for the class of the 80s. Shout out to Vanessa Hamilton. Shout out to Julie and Cherise King for coming on the show and helping us out. And to all our past guests, thank you for coming on and just spending some time with us, just so we can get your perspective on some things as well. We're on Twitter. Tweet with us. VI Perspective is how you get a hold of us. We're moving straight forward and up. The show's mission is just to inform, entertain, and empower everyone. And as always, around this time, our guests, our co-hosts, give a word of wisdom, and I'm going to say tonight that peace and love, in my mind, that should carry us way down the road in harmony, respect for one another, so peace and love is how it goes. So Brad Nugent should be calling in here just in a few minutes, and we should have this interesting interview. Also, I want to say too that all our past shows back from we've been doing this now for a year and a few months now. April made a year and a few months now. All our shows are on YouTube and Ustream.tv. Go to those sites respectively and just search for our channel. It's Your Perspective Talk Show. You'll see have about 160 on YouTube and about 15 to 20 on Ustream.tv. That's another way that you can access the show as well. And big ups to the class of the 80s. They got a big function coming up. I think someone had posted there that they got t-shirts for sale. Get yours quickly, get yours soon before I guess they all run out. Big ups to Wasi for helping out the co-hosting, Big Disco, Vanessa for sure. Who else has helped out here? Audrey Brown, thank you so much for coming in here. I'm missing somebody I know. Add a touch. Joanna Samuel, she came here as well and did some co-hosting with us. They'll all be back in the co-hosting capacity soon here as we just continue on with guests of various magnitudes of life, whether it be work or public service, entrepreneurs, just doing their thing. Go on our website, fill in. There's a form there, an online form that you can fill out that will send us an email message letting us know that you'd like to be a guest on the show. We'll definitely call you back, just your name, your number, and just what you want to talk about, and we'll do our best to put you on the show. But our guest tonight is Brad Nugent, cruising, and he's away, and I just asked him to come on tonight and talk a little bit about just the current events here in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, just nationally and internationally, if he has any insight on that, and just some current topics. A lot of rulings have come down that are changing lives and affecting people. At times it can be a little emotional, but I guess everybody has an opinion. Everybody can choose a side, and you can even be neutral on these subjects. Just live your life of love, and I think that's him calling right now. Hold on one second. Hold on. Hey, Brad, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, Brad, you're live right now on the show. Welcome and thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So I know that, and one of the things, Brad, I forgot to mention to you, as you're talking on the show, what I have is a picture of you so that our viewers can see who you are.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So,
hope it's a good picture.
yeah, I think it is. I completely forgot to mention that to you, but that's what we like to do because we're streaming, live video, live audio onto the internet. So we just like to have a picture there, and so when you're talking,
Sure.
they'll just see who you are as well. So thanks for coming out.
Sure. Thanks.
And we're calling this show. We're also calling this show sort of the first of a new segment that we're doing here called the Concerned Citizen. And yeah, so this is like a new kind of segment thing we're doing here. But as we move on here, thanks for coming on. And I know that we talked some time back there at a function you held here, and now you're away. And I guess the assumption is that you're still involved with the Democratic Party in some capacity. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And as you we're here in the Virgin Islands and now you're away. The differences, it's all like, I guess, the same Democratic Party, but, just from the Virgin Islands view and the national view.
Okay. Well, first of all, David, let me say thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to come and have a conversation with you. I love your show, and you guys have always reached out not only to the community but the Democratic Party, and have given us an opportunity to share our perspective on the things that are affecting the Virgin Islands and St. Croix in particular. And if I didn't say before, I want to say thank you again for coming out and supporting our launch of the Freddie Gomez Latino Scholarship Fund. I think that was the last time we had an opportunity to see each other, and that was in February.
Yes.
That was hosted by the Hispanic Democratic Club, one of my favorite organizations, and I want to say a shout out to Joey and all my Latino brothers and sisters in St. Croix.
Okay.
And so shortly after that, you're absolutely right, David. Shortly after that, I came back to my second home. I'm back in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
One of the primary reasons, I think I shared with you privately, I have a little boy.
Yes.
I needed to spend some time with my son. And so all great things emanate from what you value the most, and family is very important to me, whether they're by blood or relation. And so my priority is to my little boy.
Okay.
And I'm trying to, of course, stay connected with my other love, which is the people of St. Croix, my friends, my parents, my brothers and sisters. They still live there, and some of my best friends as well. And I just want to make sure, although I may be separated by water, we're not separated by spirit and heart. And so I've tried to stay informed on some of the things that are going on there, especially in politics. I have a love of that, and try to get involved in that a little bit here in Washington as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is Politics Central. It's the capital of the United States, and so you can't help but see it everywhere you go. Literally, you get a chance. You might go to the restaurant down the street, or go to the bar and have a few drinks and hang out with your friends, and you see the people that you watch on ABC News the night before, or you see on C-SPAN. It's awesome.
Yes.
And it's tumbling too. For the most part, everybody is just very easygoing and stuff like that. But it's great, and I've tried to stay plugged in, and hopefully, with the continued support and our friends down there, we can work on some things from here to help the community down in the Virgin Islands. Okay,
so I just want to ask you a quick question. Have you seen any presidential motorcade yet?
Oh man, all the time, man.
Okay.
Actually, in, you know who to be running around here a lot, David?
Who?
Joe Biden. Oh my goodness.
Oh, really? Okay.
That fella is everywhere. In my neighborhood, he lives maybe 3 minutes away. His official vice presidential residence is in the Woodley Park area of Washington D.C. So
Okay.
you see that, or you hear the helicopter quite often, and that's what I mean. You're so close to the seat of power, and you would be amazed at how ordinary these people act and stuff like that, even though you look at them as world leaders and stuff. So
okay.
you get to see that from time to time. I'll give you even a joke. The new mayor of D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser, a Democrat from, I believe, Ward 4, she won that seat in November. I was going down to the gym, stopped at Starbucks, and was walking down the street, and she was walking with an aide of hers, going to go and buy a cup of coffee. It was just surreal.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because just the evening before, you saw her on all the major networks, responding to, I don't know if you recall, fortunately it wasn't an actual incident. Someone said that they heard shots at the Naval Center here in D.C. and it was a massive scramble and stuff.
Yes, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was an actual incident of that a few years ago and several people were killed. And so you just saw her less than 24 hours speaking on a national platform, and she's going down the street to get a caramel macchiato. It's surreal.
I got you, man. I got you. Wow. Okay. So moving on here a little bit, like the Democratic Party, as you talk about, being there and being here, what's happening, maybe not new, but moving forward in a sense with the Democratic Party on a national level?
I'm sorry?
The Democratic Party on a national level.
Yes.
Moving forward on that particular topic, what's happening? What's the push? Because we have a presidential election next year.
Yes. We do have a presidential election next year, and you can feel the I want to say tension. You can feel the growing excitement around the town in terms of people starting to think about where they want to work. In terms of which teams that they want to start working with. The campaigns are actually recruiting people heavily. I've already pledged my commitment to Secretary Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I've attended a few of the house events that we host here in Washington. And so I'm going to be throwing my support to her. But the Democratic National Party has right now, I would say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candidates. We have 5 candidates. We have Governor Lincoln Chafee,
former
governor of Rhode Island. We have Secretary and former Senator Hillary Clinton from New York. We have former Governor Martin O'Malley from Maryland. And we have current Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. He's an independent, but he's running as a Democratic candidate for our nomination.
Okay.
The last person that just recently made a formal announcement of his candidacy is former Senator Jim Webb from Virginia. So the Democratic Party, we have 5 official candidates that have announced their consideration to be the nominee for our party. And now we're going to pick one of them next year in July. The Democratic Party, we're having our national convention in Philadelphia next summer, where we will formally select our candidate to go up against the Republican candidate.
Okay.
So I don't envy my Republican friends. You are aware that they have 15 official candidates now.
Yes, they have a big entourage of people.
They have a big circus, David. Let me be real, okay? I mean, you name it, and I think the ringleader for the circus right now, to the chagrin of most of them, is Donald Trump.
Yes.
He's the one that's getting the most light right now from the party, and I would say in some instances he's emanating a lot of heat, and I think he's gonna, I don't know if it's intentional or unintentionally, burn his party, because the positions that he's taking sincerely does not reflect unifying, the various groups of people that constitute the United States. And so if he is their best candidate and he's the one that's in charge, in terms of leading the polls, I sincerely feel sorry for the Republican Party. But that's not my headache. I'm looking at my team, and I think we have a slate thus far of great public servants.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, you said you liked Hillary, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm supporting Hillary Clinton right now.
Okay. Okay.
And we have met a few times. In terms of, I'm not saying meet with Hillary Clinton. In each state, the candidates try to set up operations and stuff like that. So in the D.C. area, there is a group of us that are reaching out and trying to get volunteers and spread the word about our candidate, because I believe at this point she is the most prepared, most experienced, and the one that, for the most part, is speaking in a manner that unifies our community, and I think will be best for the United States and the U.S. Virgin Islands as well.
Okay, so, and you mentioned we. So when you say we, are you saying that you're among other Virgin Islanders doing this, or you're just there with other Democratic individuals dealing with these functions?
The group that I interact with, for the most part, I mean, it's hundreds of people and stuff, but there's a small core group of us. There are no Virgin Islanders at this moment. I'm setting up. Soon I'll have to host my own house party, and that's when I'm going to invite all my VI friends. And there's, thousands of us in this area. Let me tell you, you can throw a stone up in the air and you'll hear, ouch, what's going on? I'm telling you, there are so many awesome Virgin Islanders living in the DMV area, as we call it, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia metro area.
Yes.
And so I'm going to reach out to them once I get a little bit more experience and have my own house party, as we call it. But right now, the core group that I deal with is a lot of Caribbean people. As a matter of fact, the leader of our team, she's Haitian American, and so you have a lot of stuff in common. I'm going to tell you, David, I have some recommendations and some ideas that I think I'll share with my Virgin Island Democratic friends, because one of the things that we have to do is each state and territory sends delegates to the National Convention. Okay? They're the ones that are going to put in their vote and select who the nominee will be.
Okay.
And this happens every 4 years. And so sometime in the spring, the Virgin Islands Democratic Party is going to have a small scale election to pick the delegates. Now you have super delegates and you have regular delegates. Some of them are just automatically selected. For example, the state chairman, that's an automatic delegate. Whoever is the Democratic governor or the last person to win the nomination as a Democrat, so that would be Donna Christensen.
Okay.
Automatically, so top elected officials are automatically delegates, and then there are some slots for regular Democrats to run for and to be selected. So in the spring, we're going to have an election.
Okay.
And pick delegates to the convention. So I'm looking forward to that. One of the things, however, I think we should start thinking about as the Democratic Party in the Virgin Islands is at the convention, you get an opportunity also to help shape what the national platform is going to be.
Okay.
And I know people are always talking about what the platform for the party is, this and that. You can have one locally, but there's a national platform. And delegates and their representatives have an opportunity to put forward a line or two which expresses the will and the intent and the priorities of that state or territory in the national platform.
Okay.
And I think this is a critical time for us to consider how we want whoever is going to be the presidential nominee, to tell them what our priorities are. And I think the party needs to do two things. And this is my recommendation, of course.
Okay.
Up to them.
Okay.
I think we need to consider putting forward our ideas as what we wanted to be represented as the Virgin Islands, territorial platform line, so to speak. But also I'm asking the Virgin Islands to reach out with the other territories, Guam, Puerto Rico, America Samoa, Marianas Islands, to get together with them and put a territorial position into the national platform, because there are some things that are affecting all of us as territories.
Okay.
And one of those things is proper representation in Congress. You know, we have a delegate, but we don't have a full representative per se that's allowed to vote on the floor. None of us do. And I think that's time for us to change. So that's something that's affecting us all. Also, to try to get more of the provisions for the American, what we call the Obamacare.
Yes.
I think if we get together as a territory and outline what we need, I think that'll have a significant impact on whoever the Democratic nominee will be, and hopefully, I believe, the next president. So in the spring, VI has an election. VI Democrats have an election to make, and I think they should reach out not only to come up with ideas what they want, but what they, as members of the territories of the United States, would like as well.
Okay, okay. So that's sort of your recommendation for the Virgin Islands moving forward? Is that the safe way to put that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is what you just recommended there is sort of like a start for the Virgin Islands in the Democratic arena? That's sort of what we have to do to get better positioned.
Yes, I agree. And again, this is just my opinion, you know, and I'm offering it to some of those very, very hardworking Democrats who I know are serious-minded and you know, always thinking about what's the best for their community. One of the things, David, I want us to think a little bit more of is I would like the Virgin Islanders as a whole to start thinking outside of their shores. I think that we have not put enough imagination in terms of seeing us playing a greater role or a larger part of the United States of America.
Okay.
I don't think we've leveraged the relationships that we've had. We haven't maximized it. I know for sure the Democratic Party has not. And I think that's why sometimes when situations come about, our voice is too small.
Okay.
So I think we can walk and chew at the same time. So we can consider what do we want in terms of priorities as Democrats in the Virgin Islands, but reach out to our friends here in the DNC here in the United States and definitely in DC. There's enough of us up here, there's enough Virgin Islanders out here, and use us as a tool to build a relationship from America to the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
We have to start thinking a little bit more globally, and we can start with our relationship right here with the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah. Do you think the Virgin Islands has a role or a place in the whole situation of Cuba becoming a little bit more open with travel and that kind of stuff?
In terms of travel?
Well, I mean, you know, like the cruise line just will be starting there, but the Virgin Islands, do we have a place? A role somehow with Cuba? I mean, how would that help us?
Oh wow!
I mean, you know, could it help us? Would it help us? That's really
I believe you know, relationships are everything, David. Even bad ones. I have a personal philosophy that you try to burn no bridge. You might have some people that you don't get along with, but you don't throw them over the bridge or burn them. You keep them on one side and you can stay on one side, because there's going to come a time, sometime, where you all are going to have some sort of priorities that mesh, and if you, at least you can have some respect, that one time you can work on an issue that's important to both sides
of
you at the same time.
Yeah.
I think as you know, I used to be the Assistant Commissioner of Tourism.
Yes.
Under the DeYoung administration, and that was led and continues to be led by Beverly Nicholson Doty. And when she came in with a clear vision and a clear plan. And to the core of that plan was maximizing the current relationship. Whoever you wronged, go apologize and try to make friends to move forward, and then build out new friends. I have a concern, a real concern, David, is that when I'm talking to people who are still in the industry and stuff like that, it's almost like the reverse is happening. And I don't think it's any fault of Commissioner Doty, but I think that you have to get the community leaders and the elected leaders to have a bigger vision and a bigger picture, and understand that the success depends on their ability to put, at times, egos aside and seek to try to build consensus. We're not always going to agree on everything. So what I'm saying is that I'm seeing people are jockeying for attention and competing to have the best idea instead of working on the best idea for all. This Cuba thing is something that was predicted. I remember sitting in the Senate chambers and providing testimony specifically on this issue about 3 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
We even predicted, the Department of Tourism, we predicted to the year when Cuba was going to open up. We said that we feel quite positive based on conversations that the State Department is having, that President Obama intends to normalize relations with Cuba in 2015.
Okay.
And that was based on information coming from the State Department, information coming from the cruise lines, because I'm gonna tell you, the money is going to chase after the opportunity, and they're the ones that will sniff it out first. So we started to hear chatter about the cruise lines, and they're always looking for new opportunities,
new destinations.
I think it fell on deaf ears, and now people talked about it. It was forewarned. And now here we are trying to scramble and say, oh, what tourism is going to do, and I think that's unfair.
Yeah.
They asked for additional resources. We were building out the relationships with other regional partners, because Cuba is not just a threat for the Virgin Islands. It's a definite threat for a lot of other islands in the Eastern Caribbean who depend heavily on the cruise industry. And we were making plans with them to look at how can we have a regional plan. Because that's typically what we do when we look at competitors such as Alaska and Mexico, which is almost like their own cruise industry all by themselves. This side of the Caribbean Ocean, we usually pool resources and ideas and try to market the hell out of our case in order to compete. I'm seeing less of that.
Okay.
That's why I'm a little disappointed. It has done a reverse, where Commissioner Doty has made a hard effort to build friendships outside of government and other islands and stuff. It's almost a reverse. It is becoming insular. Everything is about an administration, one particular leader, and this and that. So people are now becoming a little bit more insular instead of reaching out and seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture, yeah. If that makes sense.
Yes. So tourism here, I guess we're on the right track, because there's still a lot of talk about tourism still being our number one industry. We really haven't seen any new hotels yet. The one thing, since we have this new governor in office, that I thought would have happened, and there seemed to be a lot of talk about it early on, was this new hotel that was going to be put on the South Shore. And just the way that everybody was talking about it just seemed like just now to just start building. And I thought, if that were to really happen, that could get a jolt in the economy here. But to today, it's still just, bush and dry land over there. And so, do we get the planes here first and then the hotel, or do we build a hotel first and then the planes? But either way, any way you look at it, we got to get. I think we got to get some more folks in here. Spending, like they say, overnights, 2 or 3 nights here, and kind of splurging on the economy and in town, Frederickstead and West and Christiansted, just having a good time spending money.
You're right on track in terms of talking about what I believe is almost like a wall of missed opportunities. St. Croix has so many things going right for it, and all it needs is some leadership in order to push it forward. You don't need another study. You don't need another committee to review something 500 times. I think there's a group of people here in the United States who's just becoming rich off of having studies and studies of the Virgin Islands. Because if one thing we like to do is set aside money for another study.
Another study,
my concern is this, David. There are several ideas to support the tourism industry there that came about over the last 5 years.
Okay.
Some good, some not so good, but some worth pursuing. What I'm starting to see now is that there is a competition in terms of who is going to benefit first.
Okay. When you say who's going to benefit first, you're talking about what? Like who's who?
Either who's going to get the credit for it, either which contractor is going to get a bigger slice of the pie.
Okay.
I don't like this. This one didn't support me, so he's gonna be cut out of it. So it comes back to what I think is going to be a theme throughout our discussion this evening. That I'm seeing the local government and local leaders now are fighting more amongst themselves instead of fighting for things that can help the community.
Okay.
That is always, in competition in any government. But I'm seeing more of that now, a sort of selfish perspective.
Okay.
And the collateral damage is a slowing down of some progress that we had hoped to see over the last few years.
Yeah. In your travels up there in DC, and I must disclose to you, Brad, that I actually lived up there for a very long time.
Okay.
And so I'm very familiar with the whole area there. I still have great friends there, and Virgin Islands group crew, posse back then was huge. I could imagine what it is now. But as you're traveling, the streets, the hallways, do you hear people talking about the Virgin Islands in any capacity, good, bad, or indifferent?
Let me. Yes. Short answer is yes, and I'm gonna tell you to my pleasant surprise. The people that I talk to always speak about the Virgin Islands in a positive. I haven't heard anyone say anything necessarily negative about the Virgin Islands.
Okay.
So I think the work that was done over the last few years in terms of promoting the Virgin Islands and the strategy to promote the culture of it. Okay, because let's be honest, the Virgin Islands, in for the most part, is not any different from Aruba in terms of it's an island.
Okay.
It has sand. It has hotel, and I'm sure you can get a rum punch in Aruba. But what is uniquely great and better than Aruba is the people, culture, and the heritage.
Okay.
And so that has been emphasized in our marketing efforts for the last, I would say, 6-7 years. And clearly, based on the feedback that people have given me when I talk about it, even the locals, even the Virgin Islanders that live here, would even compliment about that. They're going to still say, boy, man, what's going on with them politicians and stuff like that. Everybody says that.
So they're very involved.
Yes.
Okay.
So we do pay attention.
Okay.
Believe me.
Okay.
And they are very vocal about it.
Okay.
To the point where there is no congressional campaign in the last 10 years, definitely no gubernatorial campaign in the last 10 years that have not had sought out some level of support, especially money-wise,
okay,
from the Virgin Islanders that are living in the diaspora.
Okay.
3 places that they go and seek out.
Okay.
It is New York, the DMV area, Atlanta, and I would want to add a little bit Florida as well.
Okay.
So Virgin Islanders living away, they definitely pay attention to what's going on in their home country.
Mm-hmm.
many of us are concerned because we care. That's our home. But to go back to your original question, I have noticed a more, if they say one bad thing, they say three good things at the same time.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah. So the conversations, as a matter of fact, I had a conversation today with someone who is from the DC area. He's a financial manager, and we were just, talking in general, and I told him I was from the Virgin Islands, and he's like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
Because in their mind, it's always better sitting in the sun on St. Croix, and I can't disagree with that. So,
Brad, honestly, when I lived up there, I got the same thing too. You tell people you're from St. Croix, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, I finished school and I moved on. That's my home, but I'm here doing my thing. And I always lived in Maryland, but as you said, that whole area there is connected. You can be in DC and Virginia just in a few minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that place. But another question that I wanted to ask you, as you talk about the Virgin Islanders there in the DC, I call it the DC metro area. But what are they saying a little bit more specifically about what's going on here? Because they live away, but they're in tune to what's happening here. So what are they saying? If you could just share a little bit, because I live here and there's a lot of other people live here, and so I just try to get a feel if there's some similarities in the frustration, the good, the bad, or indifferent about what's happening here.
I could break it down to three things that usually is the topic of discussion. In no particular order, I would say Virgin Islands here in the DMV area, they're talking about the economy, in terms of it's so expensive to go there. How you expect to get tourists to come there? The flights are so expensive. We want to come down for Carnival and Cruiser Christmas Festival and stuff. And if we can't afford it to go and visit our family,
yes,
it is even more difficult for someone who has discretionary dollars to make a choice of where they want to go.
Yes,
if it's going to cost them $800, they have a family of three, and it costs $800 for just one person round trip to go. How can I take my wife and my little daughter who is born here? We're from there, but she's born here. We want to take her to go see the beach for the first time.
Yes, get some of the culture.
That's close to $2,000 just to fly.
Yes.
So one of the things they talk about is the economy.
Okay.
It is, and the tourism economy. It's becoming even more difficult to contribute in that way. And what is the community doing about it? Another thing they talk about is the acrimony that still exists, or the fallout from the election. Some of them are just saying, get over it. You have a Governor Kenneth Mapp. He won the election, and why are people still debating that?
Okay.
And that people need to move on and come together and fight. You can hate the sin, but you don't hate the sinner.
Okay.
In other words, if there's an issue that is vexing you, don't beat up on the person. Say this issue needs to be resolved. How can we do it? Agree to disagree and move on. So the acrimony, the tension that still exists, even though the elections is now 8 months behind of us, why are people still bickering about it?
Okay.
And I think the third thing that we hear, that you can hear some folks up here arguing about, is their concern about how the new administration has been leading so far. One person said, that he had a great plan to win the election, but didn't have a plan to govern, and that's two different things.
Okay.
And so they have a concern because what we see, we usually get our information if we're talking to our family, but other than that, we get our information online.
Yes.
And when you look at the daily news online, or the VI consortium, or the source, it's almost like one little mini scandal after the other. Now, is that the media's fault, or is this a true reflection of some of the challenges that this Republican administration is having? Like you have, Villa Gate, The whole thing was surrounding the residency and the decision that Governor Mapp has made in terms of where he wanted to live, and that turned out into a big thing. The news media reported, his administration reported 2,500, and now the news media investigated, and it's up to I think like $14,500 a month for a villa.
Yes.
And then you have Chefgate. That's a new thing I'm hearing now in terms of the administration.
What are you calling this now?
Chefgate.
Oh, Chefgate. Okay.
Chef.
Yes.
His cook.
Yes. I can hear about that too.
Now we're seeing a lot of ink being put out there regarding what some people are saying. It sounds a little contradictory when during the campaign it was about providing 1,000 jobs for everyone and stuff. Now there's been a lot of pink slips, but there's also been some hirings that people are now calling to question in terms of it doesn't look fair.
Doesn't look fair. Okay.
With the Chefgate thing, we're reading headlines that Governor Mapp hired a lady to be his cook, who just happens to be the mother of one of his advisors. Then you have one campaign person who was a great financial bundler on his finance team. That person now got the job as the legal counsel for Wyco. And so it lends itself to be like when people are talking about 1,000 jobs, they thought it was 1,000 jobs for everyday normal people who need to
have a job,
lift themselves out. Not for an elite group of supporters.
Okay.
So that's the third thing I think.
Yeah.
People are talking about the stumbles and the missteps that we're constantly seeing in the local news media about this new administration. So those are the things that we talk that you hear the VI diaspora out here talking about. The economy, are we investing and doing the right things? It's very challenging to support what we believe is the VI economy. If you look at the budget, the budget that just went down, if tourism accounts for about 80% of our GDP, why is it only $20 million?
Okay.
Which is almost less than 4% of the overall budget, but we're saying it accounts for 80%. What is going on?
What's going on? Yeah.
So those are the issues when you're going out and having a drink or two with your friends, or you're going over by somebody's house and having a little barbecue or whatever. Especially now, when you see a group of Virgin Islanders, wherever they're from, whether it's St. Thomas, St. Croix, and stuff, those for the most part are the three things that they talk about the most.
Yeah.
And it comes from a position of really caring and wanting to see our brothers and sisters and our cousins do better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let me ask you this. So the new governor Mapp is in office. He's been in office 6-7 months now, and so is it safe to assume that Donna Christensen was your pick for the governor?
Oh yes, she was our nominee. Yes.
And so, for me, it's a thing of we went through 2 elections to finally get the decision made who's going to be governor. But at the time, who would have thought that we'd be going through this kind of stuff? Just a few months down after the election was decided, and we voted twice, and Mapp won. Who would have thought that we'd be having these kind of issues now? I mean, it was just not a thing. I think in my mind, people were probably more thinking about, okay, we need to get this hotel built over here and get the ballpark rearranged over here in West. But now none of that's happening, and now we got Villa Gate and Chef Gate and the front gate, and nothing's really happening. I would hope that it's safe to assume all my friends that I deal with here know. So I say this all the time. I voted for Donna Christensen twice, and unfortunately she didn't make it. But I mean, in hindsight, I hope that if she had got in there, that we wouldn't be going through this. I mean, we'd be moving along a little further in getting the Virgin Islands in place. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sorry. sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were saying.
No, well, I'm just, it's a little frustrating. I mean, I guess I'm just trying to gauge what they're saying up there, and it's sort of what everybody's talking about. It to me, it's like water cooler talk now. I mean,
Right.
It's just, we can't believe what's going on.
Right. I think it might be water cooler talk, the things that you do in casual conversations, but I'll tell you, David, it's very serious. This is kitchen table talk.
Yeah, I know.
These are things that people, it is starting to affect not only the morale of the locals that are there, it's starting to affect their pocket.
Okay.
Because the U.S. Virgin Islands unemployment rate is still really high, and folks are not. The economy is not growing. You're right. We need to get that hotel up and running. That'll bring several construction jobs and put a boost in the economy for a lot of people who are not, looking to be employed as network administrators or IT professionals or money managers and stuff like that.
Yes.
We have very proud, willing, and able-bodied Virgin Islanders that are not begging for anything. They are just asking for an opportunity
Yes.
to work, because there is dignity in work. And I totally believe, had Donna Christensen and Senator Otley won, that we wouldn't be having this much, and I keep coming back to this word, acrimony.
Okay.
There are some, there's always going to be some inherent challenges. You can't predict everything. And so they would have definitely had some walls to knock down. But what I feel disappointed about, and let me be clear, Governor Mapp is the governor of the Virgin Islands, and I'm a Virgin Islander, and for him to fail means it's going to hurt everybody. So we cannot wish any failure on him, because if he's successful and does the things that he said he was going to do during the campaign, the Virgin Islands will be better. And
Okay.
that's all I want to do. So let me make that clear. At least for Brad Nugent, is not wishing anyone any hoping for the demise of anyone. That is wrong. And if folks are thinking that and wishing anything bad like that, it hurts all of us.
Okay.
So that's my concern. It's chatter for some of us, but for some people, it really hurting them in their pockets. They're waiting for the 1,000 jobs. And so when they hear that, somebody mother get this and somebody cousin get this and one wife gets fired because she supported this team over the other, I think that is wrong.
Yes, I agree with you 200%.
I think that is not how this community should be reflecting the best of themselves. So I thought Delegate Christensen and Mr. Otley would have been a better choice.
Yes.
Unfortunately, because, to be quite frank, some missteps in their own campaign hurt them. Also, definitely the Democratic Party, because of some lack of leadership there and the inability to build consensus. And also because you had an old guard and a new guard
Yes.
in there fighting amongst themselves, caused some distractions. But I give the Democratic Party some credit. They were able to secure 5 out of the 7 seats in St. Croix.
Yes.
Unheard of for a long time. 6 out of the 7 in St. Thomas. They maintained control over the congressional seat as well. So there were some successes there. But David, I'm very, very, very concerned because, like one person put it, there was a plan to win, but not a plan to govern. And the things that were laid out during the campaign just doesn't line up in terms of what we're seeing.
What we're seeing now, yeah.
Had we predicted it? Yes. There's some of us who had to take a perspective and some of us wanted to take a resume approach to looking at the candidates, and we said, based on resume, here's what we saw as the performance. And based on how this person performed here, and here, we anticipate that they would do this, and that.
Okay, I got you.
There's a lot of people that would tell you, and I don't think it's helpful by saying going to people and telling them, you see, I told you so. That's not what good Virgin Islanders should do, because that is not a way to win somebody.
Okay.
Earn anyone's respect, and I don't think that builds the type of relationship you need to try to fix things. So anybody that's doing that, saying I told you so, this and that, blah blah blah, and criticizing people for buyer's remorse, I don't think that is approach.
Okay.
That might make you feel good for a hot minute, but just remember, the person that you're criticizing, that's your neighbor.
Yes.
That's your cousin. You know, that's somebody's child.
Yeah.
And so, I don't want us to develop that mentality. I want us to put things back in perspective. So let's work with those leaders that are willing to do something bold and not just play along to get along, and try to get everybody on the right track.
Yeah.
But you're right. I thought Delegate Christensen, based on her relationship, her work history, suggested to many of us, thousands of us, that she was the best pick. But, you know, the voters at the end of the day chose differently, and we have to, you know, we can't cry about the hand that we were given. We just have to learn how to play that hand.
Play that hand a little better, a little smarter, yeah.
Correct.
Let me ask you another question. As you mentioned there, you have a young son, and so I guess you've had some opportunity to deal with the school system there. And so, you know, when you compare, you know, there and here, I mean, any similarities, any things that you think that could probably be done here to get things a little better? You know, teachers are demanding more pay, and I guess in the States they probably make more closer to what the national average is for pay. But any thoughts on your interaction with the school system? Because, you know, my son, who's grown now, he went to PG County school, you know, school system. And so, you know, just your interaction with the school system. Any thoughts on that, and kind of comparing it to here, and maybe you see some things that maybe that could be done quickly to get you know, our system moving in the right direction?
You know, I'm going to tell you this. The Washington, D.C. school system has had a legendary, dysfunctional reputation for many, many years. But you saw a shift probably around 5, 6 years ago, when then Mayor Anthony came in, and he came in like a cowboy. He brought in Michelle Rhee, who got national attention for some of the hard decisions that she had to make in the DC school system.
Okay.
And, you know, the teachers, unions, and stuff fought against them. But they were actually able to put in some systems in place that made decisions based on data versus just how we feel and how we love each other.
Okay.
And I think that if we can marry the compassion behind what is necessary to teach and teach well with the hard facts of what the data tells us, you know?
Yes.
You have to allocate resources here. If you don't give a proper living wage to a teacher, you're going to start to get teachers who are second, third, fifth choice on anybody's list. And are those the ones that you want? Secondly, the teachers that are doing well, how do we compensate them better to ensure that they stay here and we don't lose them to another state or something like that? I think those are the things that are everyone is thinking about and talking about. That's not anything new.
Mm-hmm.
What is different is that in the U.S. Virgin Islands, we politicize it too much.
Okay.
Somebody has to get the credit for doing it, or somebody doesn't want to do it because they didn't support this person or the other. And so we can't build consensus around good ideas. We try to struggle and make decisions based on who you know and who you like. And that's not unique to the Virgin Islands, but it is something that is really crippling us from growing our education system to prioritize what's in the best interest for the kids.
For the kids,
and
yeah.
how do we get the best quality educators and support the ones that we have there so they can continue to give their best. So if there's any comparison, DC has started to make decisions based on the data that they have,
okay.
and they had to make hard decisions that weren't politically popular, but were necessary to be considered good public service.
Yes.
And I've seen those decisions being done here. It was the same strategy that was used in PG County, what you were talking about,
Yes.
20 years ago.
Okay.
And it's something that Montgomery County, which is right next to PG County, has done absolutely well. Their education system is considered one of the best in the United States of America because they pour more resources to the teachers as well as to the students. I don't see that perspective in the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
At all.
Yeah. Let me ask you too, sort of a question of a lot of the government says they have no money, and so what are your thoughts on generating revenue for the Virgin Islands? What can we do, whether it's tourism or hotels or maybe some water amusement park? But what are your thoughts on getting or generating revenue so we can get the numbers in the positive as opposed to the negative?
Well, I always say that a budget is not just just numbers and words. Whenever we make a budget, the budget reflects what our priorities are. And, of course, the governor submitted a budget sometime, I believe, in May. And the legislature right now during the summers, traditionally, they're going through it, getting testimony and, crossing this off and adding something else. And by September, they have to have a budget completed after taking all the testimony and dicing up and changing and moving around what Governor Mapp has given them, and then pass a budget. That's one of the things, according to our Constitution, the Organic Act, that responsibility lays with the legislature.
Okay.
But what I have noticed is that this budget, I believe, does not reflect what are the true priorities for the Virgin Islands. I hinted on that by saying, for example, tourism is so vital to, especially since Hovenza is gone and stuff like that, it's so critical to the economy of the Virgin Islands, but it represents such a large percentage of the overall budget.
Yes. Okay.
And so if you expect to get a good quality return on an investment, you invest in areas where your needs are. And I think we need more monies invested in tourism. It's just not reflected there. Now, when we talk about education being a priority, I think it is, but you can't just be throwing money at it. You have to have a plan to respond and to deal and cut some things, and there's going to be some hard decisions. Cut some things out that we don't need and put some money into things that in the long run is going to be better and get a better quality product, which is educated, well-rounded students. Now, if that is a priority, my understanding is that this administration has asked for a $12 million reduction in education. However, an astronomical increase in the Office of the Governor's budget.
Okay. I think I did read that. Yes, I think I did hear that or read that somewhere.
Yes, it has increased more than ever before. It's larger than in the last, I would say, the last 6 years. Every year, based on the challenges we've been having in the economy, that particular section of the budget has always been reduced. Now it has been increased tremendously, more so than in the last 6 years as well. So if we're talking about creating a budget that reflects our priorities, I think those two things, there's a disconnect there. Cutting money from education, but increasing it for trips and I'm trying to remember what the headline that we all read up here, for trips and for new limousines and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think that's inconsistent with the public's expectation. It is inconsistent with what many of us believe the budget priorities needs to be, and it is inconsistent with what we heard over the campaign and what was being promoted during that time. Okay. So I don't know if I answered your question, but what I want to say on the first blush, the budget that was put forward just seems inconsistent with what the community believes our priorities are. Okay. And what they have proposed. So I'm hoping the legislature takes that into consideration and make the necessary changes. we need to immediately put some projects online to put money in people's pockets.
Yes.
We have a large working poor community, and anything that will inject some money in their pocket will help the economy overall, because they're going to spend it.
Yes.
People that we know that the very, very rich, they save their money and invest it so it can grow. They don't necessarily spend it per se.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they make their wealth. But the working poor and the middle class, when they get money, they spend it right back into the economy. And I think if we take those things into consideration, I think we can improve this budget before it is voted on at the end of September.
Yeah, let me ask you another question here. Hovenza Hess, do you hear any, when your travels there, do you hear anybody talking about Hovenza Hess? You're in Starbucks or some restaurant, maybe you overhear a conversation and someone's talking about that. Any vibes on that?
I have to be quite frank with you. Hovenza doesn't really come up that much as a matter of discussion. I'm not saying it's not a priority for others, but that's something that that we don't talk about that much.
So when you say we, you're talking about other Virgin Islanders or just?
Yeah, I'm just talking about like other Virgin Islanders.
Okay.
When we're talking about that, and I think it's maybe the tail wagging the dog in terms of how we get our news. So those things have not been dominating the headlines.
Okay.
And so what tends to stick out in our minds is the stuff that we've been reading. And like I said, the focus have been in the newspapers, on the radio talk shows, and when you go on Facebook, what has been sticking and standing out to us is these very unusual missteps in some of the decisions that this administration has been going forward. Whether that all that criticism is warranted, it depends on who you speak to. But that is what sticks out in our minds. So the discussion is led by what we read in our news media and what people are talking about. And what people are talking about is right now is they're not seeing the jobs that was promised to them, and they're getting a sense that this administration seems to be prioritizing themselves around a small group of supporters and a small group of donors.
Yes.
And that's what's leading the discussion.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So let me ask you, the Supreme Court made a ruling about same-sex marriage and that whole thing there. And of course, that whole push is down here too in the Virgin Islands. It's a tough decision to make. I mean, it's church versus state. Who do you believe in as your godly figure in life? But the Supreme Court said, I guess it's okay, is sort of how it goes, and I guess the end result is that a judge can and probably should just marry you, and I know here it's a thing of it appears that most people are against it, and I think that has probably a cultural backing. I mean, that's how I was raised. You think of marriage, you think of a man and a woman. When I went to Moravian Church right here in Christiansted, that's what I was being taught. And so, but it's tough. A lot of people feel that just it's their business. Their God will deal with them accordingly. But it's a tough. I mean, any thoughts on that?
Well, the Supreme Court, I believe it was on June 26th, they made a decision and they supported, in the case of Olga Bethel versus Hodge, and that was, Olga Bethel was the spouse. He was this gentleman him and his spouse had gotten married, but their marriage wasn't recognized in the state of Ohio. Mm-hmm. And what happened is his partner died from ALS, and he wanted to be listed on the official public record as the spouse of the deceased, and Ohio said no.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to recognize that. And so, he sued Ohio, and it went up the chain until it was agreed to be heard. And Hodge, in this case, when it says versus Hodge is the director of I think the Office of Public Records or something to that extent in Ohio.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court said that same-sex marriage will be recognized throughout the United States based on the 14th Amendment, which guarantees equal protection under the law.
Mm.
And Justice Kennedy wrote the supporting opinion, and Judge Anton Scalia wrote the dissenting opinion. And that was when you read Judge Scalia's dissenting opinion, meaning his opinion against what they determined, and it was very, very slim. 5-4 was the decision.
Yes.
With Chief Justice Roberts supporting it, which was a surprise to everyone because he's such a conservative judge.
Mm.
Judge Scalia, very opinion was done in such an unusual manner because he actually attacked the Chief Justice in his remarks.
Really? Okay.
So that just gave you a sense of how charged this issue was. But the Democratic Party overall has always contended. Well, I shouldn't say always. Has contended, and most recently supported by President Obama over the last few years, that we recognize the right for same-sex couples to marry, and it was based on the law and the Constitution, and not on necessarily someone's religious belief, whether you believe in Buddha, Allah, Jesus Christ. What folks were saying is based on the Constitution that recognizes the separation of church and state.
Yes.
Based on the law, that they are guaranteed protection under the 14th Amendment. The same determination that was used during the Civil Rights era, the same determination that was used to knock down those states that said a person who has my complexion cannot marry someone who has my mother's complexion. So they felt that it was consistent under the law that same-sex couples can marry just like anyone else. And I support the decision. As a matter of fact, you know that former Senator Judy Buckley tried to introduce some legislation to address that issue, which was not unusual. I mean, that was going to... Look, in 2008, they had about 13 states that supported it. By the time Barack Obama was re-elected, and in 2012, it was up to 30-something. Okay? This was a stone that was rolling down a hill that was not stopping. So she introduced legislation like many other people throughout the states. Even in Guam. Guam recognized it before we did.
Okay.
And she got no legislative support. Absolutely no one in the 30th legislature decided to support the bill going forward. I know you're a little familiar with how the legislature works.
Yes.
I can come up with a bill to provide streetlights on downtown Christian Set. And that is my bill. I wrote up the bill. But during the course, before it gets to the floor, and even while it's being debated, other senators can say, put my name on it. Before they even vote, they said, just put my name on it as a co-sponsor.
Yes.
She got absolutely no support. So that was one strike. The other strike was that the Senate President at the time, my former boss, Senate President Sean Michael Malone, never had an opportunity to pro forma it, meaning put it on the schedule for consideration. So it just was stuck in her bucket.
Yes.
It never had a chance to see the light of day because, quite frankly, as many of us predicted, that no one in the legislature would have the guts, even if they supported, would not have the guts to help it come to the floor, much less vote on it.
Yeah.
And many of us, spoke to her and said, "Hey, look, you're just going to have to wait it out.
Okay.
The court is going to make the decision, not a legislator."
Okay.
And funny enough, there was already and it was kept really quiet. That's another thing too. There was already a case filed in VI court, just like similar to how this gentleman's case made it to the Supreme Court. The Virgin Islands was already working a case through the system. So we knew it was going to come through the court because no one in the Senate was going to have the guts, even if they agree with it. They didn't want to take the political risk of supporting that.
Okay.
And the irony in that, David, many of us talked about that. The irony in that was that we already have had one gay governor. We have another gay governor. We've had gay Senate presidents. We have had gay senators. We have had gay commissioners. And so, what is so laughable is that this has already existed for decades within our community.
Within our government,
quiet is kept. We just don't talk about it or point it out. But we've had, gay political leaders throughout our community, and what they have demonstrated is that your sexual orientation does not determine the competency of your leadership.
Okay.
You had some good ones, you had some bad ones. So it was just funny that we already have these people in our community living as couples, and we know them as being gay, but they were unwilling to support it. And I get it. Politically, It's still hot, even though we have a wink-wink towards each other and pretend that we don't see it.
Don't see it, yeah. So what's the undertone like up there with now that this has been passed? I mean,
sorry?
What's the undertone like in D.C. Now that this has passed? There's a ruling of 5-4.
D.C., Washington, D.C. has always had a strong support for equal rights for gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender.
Okay.
That is huge here in DC. And when I say huge, I mean people have matured to the point that they just recognize that that's just an everyday thing. Even though at the same time they have been fighting for it to be consistent, that acceptance for equal rights, not for your opinion to like them or not, just that they are recognized of having the same rights just like everyone else has been something that has been championed out of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Just as you saw leadership for decades coming out of areas such as San Francisco as well. You have a strong, vibrant, supportive, lobbying force here in D.C. for that. So, they celebrated celebrated the decision that the Supreme Court has made,
okay.
But it's not a fight that has been unusual or somehow new to them.
Okay, I got you. Let me ask you too. The other thing too is medical marijuana. That's another big hot button issue that's sort of spreading across the world, Virgin Islands.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, are you for medical marijuana? Recreational use. And I know that I think that DC just passed some law, some new regulation there about medical marijuana, or maybe it's just the recreational use. I can't remember exactly what it was. I guess 2-3 months back. But any thoughts on that?
My personal opinion, I do not have a problem with the recreational use of marijuana in moderation, and definitely I do not have a problem for the medical use of marijuana. I think this debate is now a stale one, and what we should do is to just embrace it and see what we can do to maximize some of the benefits from it, whether it's financial, medical, health-wise, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. The Washington, D.C., in their last election in November, had a ballot initiative or a referendum to determine whether or not Washington, D.C. will allow for the controlled recreational use of marijuana. It passed overwhelmingly.
Okay.
And so I don't know all the details of that provision, what it allows, but I know you can have you can go and have marijuana for recreational use. They limit it to a certain amount you can have, and you can only use it in your own personal home. It's not like you can smoke it on the street or anything like that.
You're in a
in
restaurant.
your house, you can smoke it as much as you want, and you're allowed to have up until a particular amount. I forgot how many ounces and stuff like that. But
Okay.
they've embraced that.
Okay.
And of course, in Denver, that is a huge industry now. It is leading the state in terms of contributing to their surplus that they're having in their budget, because I think what people recognize is that some people would say it's no worse than cigarette smoke. Actually, it's better.
Yes.
And if that is something that can be managed, regulated, and the state can get some tax benefits from it, many people believe that should be the same thinking behind the use of marijuana.
Okay.
Now, the opposition is going to be just the same when they had the debate about alcohol and stuff. You had the people supporting it and the people against it, saying it's something that's going to cause mass hysteria, drunkards in the street, killing people and stuff like that. So the same kind of rhetoric that was used before the lifting of the prohibition of alcohol in the United States, even though people were still using it in speakeasies and little rooms in the back of the store and stuff like that, it's the same argument that's being put forward now. I think my personal belief is we should have, the approach should be to manage it, control it, tax it, so it can be a benefit to the government, but allow people to have access to the use of it.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you think that whole concept will work here in the Virgin Islands? We have a couple dispensaries. It's a little, less penalties for having it. Do you think that will work here?
I think so. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Many would argue that it's already part of our culture. The use of marijuana is something that has been popularized the last 40, 50 years by the Rastafarian movement throughout the Caribbean, and it's been adopted throughout. And so a lot of people look at it as a cultural thing. Okay. So if we're thinking, and I think many people in the Virgin Islands, we're thinking that we're promoting culture and this and that. Okay, this is another opportunity to market an aspect of our culture, have some financial benefits of it. And so I think if we come with a mature, we act mature and have a sense of modernity, we can definitely get some benefits out of the use of marijuana. Wow. So I support it in moderation. Okay. I think anything, you can abuse just about anything. All right? If you drink too much, you'll kill your liver. You can develop problems with your brain, and you can definitely kill people driving your car. Yeah, intoxicated, yeah. So we just have to put on our big boy pants and handle it as adults, and try to use the best practices of other places around the United States that are using it. Yeah. If I can say just one downside of it, though, that have me concerned. Yes. Is how it's approached differently based on who is doing the distribution. What I think is unfortunate is that you have a bunch of people who do not look like you and I in Colorado that's making millions and millions of dollars distributing it through these small shops and stuff like that. Okay. But right next door, if I'm in New York and I try to distribute it myself out of my house, and I'm a black man like you and I go to jail. Yes, yes. Those guys get a license and they get to make money off of it. But if I do the same, I'll end up with going to prison for a criminal record. So we have to address that bias, and we have to bring some equity in terms of how people are treated if this is going to be an industry. So that is my concern. Okay. That's what I'm. Okay. So our guest tonight is Brad Nugent. He is a concerned citizen, just giving us his perspective on many things here. And so, Brad, it's about 9:19 p.m. And I don't know I think you said you had maybe a few things that maybe you wanted to say. I don't know if we hit on those things, but
by all means, if if you had anything on your list there that you wanted to say, go right ahead. Let our listeners, our viewers know, what's on your mind.
Well, I think we covered a broad spectrum of things that are affecting our community politically there in the Virgin Islands, and also show a connection to issues, how it affects issues here in the United States. Overall, I believe that the U.S. Virgin Islands needs to have a more mature outlook in terms of where they are, what place they will stake in this world and in this community, and their relationship to the United States. I think we are starting to retreat into an insular, inward perspective, and I think we're losing opportunities to build relationships, to grow our economy, to spread our culture, and to benefit from the relationship that we have with the United States. I want people to, take some of the chips off their shoulder and let the election go, and to be done with the idea of the campaign, and to bother themselves with governing properly.
Okay.
I'm going to make an appeal to those people, not to the administration. I'm going to make an appeal to those people that supported the Republican governor, Kenneth Mapp and Albert Potter. I'm never going to criticize or believe that they are not sincere in their heart, in their belief that they want to contribute to the Virgin Islands. That is something that I never ever question. Never going to question what's in their heart. But what we can question is how they execute what they believe in.
Yes,
but I definitely believe that it's up to the community to determine what is their priority. It's not the other way around. And I encourage them to speak up and speak out on that. And if I can contribute in any way, I will. I still have my family there. I'm concerned about them and their quality of life. And at the end of the day, I'm a proud Virgin Islander. I'm from the island of St. Croix. I'm Crujan to the heart and to the bone. And we might not be right on all the things all the time, but it's never too late to try our best to make things right every time.
All right, Brad, that's it right there, man. I want to thank you for coming out to spend some time with us. Brad is on the phone right now. He's been on the phone the last hour and 22 minutes. And I want to say thank you for coming out. We just started our new segment tonight called the Concerned Citizen, and Brad Nugent is our first guest, part of that segment of the It's Your Perspective talk show, Concerned Citizen. So if we have other concerned citizens out in the Virgin Islands, feel free to come on our show and just let us know. As we like to say, Brad, tell the nameless stories, so people can be aware of what's going on, what your struggle is per se, and how we can help to make it better.
Yes, and thank you, David, for the time. You guys are doing an awesome job, and I appreciate you reaching out to the community so they can lend their voice. I think it's important that we try to hear from the everyday man and woman who have to live the issues that politicians discuss and debate in their offices and chambers.
Yes, that's
so. I wish you a good night, and continue doing what you're doing, and good luck to you. Thank you, brother.
Okay, man. Thank you, Brad. I just want to say real quick that this is the It's Your Perspective talk show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. until. We do have a guest lined up for tomorrow. We're streaming live from the VI.com. Our telephone number is 340-201-9005. Big ups to CHS class of 1982. And what else? The show's mission is just to inform, entertain, and empower everyone. And as I said, our guest tonight was Brad Nugent. He was on the phone. He just dropped off. He just started a new segment called The Concerned Citizen on the It's Your Perspective talk show. I want to say thank you to all our viewers and our listeners, and we'll be back tomorrow night. Peace.